What's up, everybody? Welcome into our MLB DFS DraftKings Picks video for Wednesday, August 4th. I'm your host, Ben Hostler. I am solo today, and I'm going to be going over all of our DraftKings picks for the 11-game Wednesday slate. As we noted yesterday, this is a new series of video we're going to be doing, whether it's night before or early morning. We're going to be breaking down that slate with like a more preview style video. We had some pretty good feedback for last night's video. I think in actuality, we covered the slate pretty well. I was all over Dylan C, so the games are obviously still going on right now as I'm recording this, but he had a really good night, over 30 DraftKings points. It looks like the core plays are going to be easily in the money. So it's a good night for me, good night for our community. Speaking of core plays, if you guys haven't already and you want more free content, head over to dfskarma.com. We have free articles, cheat sheets every single day for every slate, for every sport. We do esports, basketball, baseball, football. It doesn't matter what sport you're looking for, but we have you covered there. And I mean, we have core plays packages available for the rest of MLB, and most importantly, preseason NFL is back. I couldn't be more excited that we get preseason back. We missed out on it last year. I know a lot of you guys started following me during preseasons, 4 or 5 years ago when I first started creating DFS content. I'm going to be back. I'm going to have notes in Discord, core plays for all the preseason slates, hopefully some preseason showdown slates as well. And it's only $20 for the entire preseason. You can pick that package up at dfskarma.com or head over to my Twitter or the DFS Karma Twitter. We tweeted out the link multiple times today. With that being said, we have baseball to talk about, and we're going to dive right in. We got 180 views on yesterday's video, which is good for the first one. I'm not complaining, but only 26 likes compared to those 180 views. So if you guys are watching this, you appreciate the free content. It costs $0 and it takes a fraction of a second. Click that little thumbs up below my face, like the video. It allows us to continue doing free content every day, and we really appreciate the support. Let's get into it. For 11 games, we've kind of seen this, right? First glance, looking at this slate, coming out of the All-Star break, we've seen this a couple times. We've had really stacked pitching slates, and we've had really watered down pitching slates, similar to what we kind of see at the beginning of the season. This is an interesting pitching slate. I do think there's a lot of options, so I'm not going to say it's a watered down pitching slate, but I think in particular the pricing just really doesn't make much sense to me. So if we're pulling up DraftKings here, we have the highest priced three pitchers on the slate: Lucas Giolito, 10,600; Jameson Taillon, 10,200; and Jake Odorizzi, 9,800. I don't know why these are the three highest priced pitchers. And I think what is going to happen here is typically I'm a spend up for pitcher guy, as you guys know, and that's kind of the strategy I have been rolling with this season. I'm not going to be spending up for any of these guys. If you just isolate their numbers to the last 30 days, Giolito, 25% strikeouts, just a shade over a 4 Sierra. Those are not ace level numbers. Those are not $10,600 pitcher numbers. Now, he does get the same matchup that Cease had tonight against the Kansas City Royals that I like. I noted yesterday when we were talking about Cease how bad the Royals offense has been really over the last month of the season. Over the last 14 days, they were outside the top 25 in WRC Plus as a team. So the matchup is very much good, but Giolito has not been throwing as well as Cease has over the last month. And Cease was more in the mid tier, below 9K. Giolito, you're spending $2,600 more on him, almost $3,000 more than what you paid for Cease. So I'm not really interested in any of these top pitchers. The first guy that immediately stuck out to me is Max Scherzer making his Dodgers debut at $9,100. I know this is a tough matchup against the Houston Astros, But how do we fade Max right here? Like, if there's one guy that you can really build a narrative around in MLB DFS, it's Max Scherzer. You know he's a gamer. You know he wants to go out there and throw well in his LA debut, and he gets to do it against the Astros. Like, what better team for his first start to come against? That's a super cheap price, 9,100. I'm assuming he's going to be owned at that. I know the matchup's tough, but I just don't know how we ignore him at this price tag. So he certainly sticks out to me and is someone that I am likely going to be playing on my main team, and I'm willing to make that claim. You know, almost 24 hours before the slate starts. Outside of Max, two guys in that same pricing tier that I think are going to project pretty well. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, $9,500. Strikeouts have kind of been up and down the last month for him, but number one most important factor always with Ohtani is his control. If you isolate his numbers to the last month of the season, obviously it's not a large sample size in terms of starts, but his walk rate is down to below 2%. So he is really, outside of the first three starts of the season, I would say, he's really honed that control in. Hasn't been walking as many guys. He did have that one bad start against Boston, but this is a really strong matchup for him against Texas. Not a patient lineup. Over the last 14 days, they're actually dead last in baseball in WRC plus as a team, just 62 WRC plus as a team over the last 2 weeks. That's absolutely terrible. So it's a great matchup for Ohtani. He has strikeout upside. It seems to be everything is clicking for him. He's not walking as many batters. So I think in terms of like an early look, I really want to build my main DraftKings roster around Max Scherzer and Shohei Ohtani in that low 9K tier, mid to low 9K tier. I think they both make a ton of sense at those prices. I much prefer them to the 10K guys, and I'm pretty confident I'm going to be writing them up when we get to Wednesday afternoon. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get on here and just talk about two pitchers. So, what other guys could I see playing in tournaments? I think three names that stick out to me: Kevin Gausman, Eduardo Rodriguez, and Zach Gallen. So, these guys are not going to be cash game type plays for me, especially with the presence of Max and Ohtani at their price tags. But all three, I think, are going to project pretty well. Rodriguez is the likeliest to be chalky, I would say. For one, he's pretty cheap at his price tag, dead 9K. And he gets a really good matchup against the Tigers. So the Tigers are kind of a team that I've been playing offensively over the last 2 weeks, but people are going to weight their season-long numbers. A lot of projection systems are going to rate their season-long numbers, and if you look for the season, they have the fifth highest strikeout rate in baseball against left-handed pitching, 26%. I was talking about isolating these pitchers' numbers to the last 30 days. He's actually been one of the best pitchers on the slate over the last 30 days. Mid-3 Sierra, 30% strikeout rate. Couple that with the high strikeout Detroit lineup. I think he's going to project really well. I think he's going to get a lot of ownership. The problem for me with Rodriguez is this is not someone that I like to play at high ownership. I do think he has a little bit more risk than some other guys. Like, he certainly has more risk than someone like Max Scherzer, and he's only $100 less. So despite what I expect to be a pretty strong projection for Rodriguez, he's going to be a GPP only play for me on Wednesday night. Zach Gallen, another guy, he's looked really good since coming off the injured list, 29% strikeout rate since then. Don't mind his matchup against Arizona. Like, it's not the best possible matchup for him, but this is a guy that I personally really like a lot. I believe in the strikeout upside, and you're getting him at a little bit of a discount. 7,900 is way too cheap on DraftKings for a pitcher of Zach Gallen's quality. So I'm certainly comfortable stomaching the potential neutral to semi-bad matchup against the Giants when you factor in that price tag. So Gallen actually probably is going to be my favorite tournament pitcher on the slate just because of that price tag being so low. Like Gausman, who I think is completely fine and playable, 9,700. He's more expensive than Ohtani and Scherzer both. So given my strong interest in those two, I don't play enough lineups to get to him personally because I'm just going to play more Scherzer and more Ohtani at those price tags. So I think that's kind of where I lean, like I said, for my main team. And for tournaments, I don't mind Rodriguez in GPPs at all. I really like Gallen at that price, and I could see myself anchoring tournament builds with him. That's really the guys that stuck out to me at first jump. I'm sure there'll be questions about other guys, maybe Carrasco making his second start. People want to play Jamison Tyon against Baltimore. I'm probably going to pass there. His numbers over the last couple weeks, metrics wise, don't look super strong to me. Orioles have kind of been picking it up lately with the bat, but he's 10,200, right? Like this is another case where I'm just going to play more Max Scherzer rather than spending up and getting to Jamison Tyon. So 11 game slate, that's a pretty sizable amount of games, but it looks like a pretty tight pitcher pool for me. It's Ohtani, Scherzer, Zach Gallen in tournaments, maybe Rodriguez in tournaments, and then maybe Zach Gausman if you're playing a lot of teams in tournaments. Full fading the 10K guys, I think personally. Giolito, Tyon, and Odorizzi. I don't know why Odorizzi is 9,800, but I will be probably full fading the $10,000 tier on DraftKings. Yesterday, we talked about stacks last. I'm going to do that as well today. So I'm going to go ahead and talk through some position plays here. I don't have the sidebar up on this build since it's a solo build in the stream. I just have my face. So I don't have the sidebar here, but I'm going to go position by position, and I'm going to start with catcher. Catcher on a big slate is generally tough. I don't know if I'll have a ton of money to spend here. So what worked out on Tuesday night was in my core plays that we posted for subscribers, I actually ended up getting up to JT Realmuto at catcher because it was just fairly easy once I built my rosters to get him. I don't know if that's going to be the case on this slate, given that I'm going to be locking in Scherzer and Ohtani. Once Cole got scratched, I kind of dropped down to Cease, which gave me some extra money. So it was easy to get up to Realmuto. So two guys in the mid tier that stick out to me at catcher. One, Eric Haas. I know I just talked about Rodriguez being in a good matchup, but like I said, I've kind of been biased towards this Tigers team. The last 2 weeks, they've been playing really well offensively, and I'm comfortable, especially if Rodriguez is going to be chalky and project pretty well. People are going to play him. I'm fine taking a bat or two against him in GPPs, and one of them has to be Eric Haas. I mean, this guy has been absolutely on fire. 50% hard hit rate against left-handed pitching since joining the big league club this season. And he's up there in terms of when we're this far into the season, one thing that I really like to do is look at the last 2 weeks of data because these guys, I believe guys see the ball well at certain times of the season. So if you isolate their batted ball data for the last 2 weeks when we're this deep into the season, you can see who's seeing the ball well, who's hitting the ball hard. That's something that's very valuable to me. In my research, Eric Haas is up there among the leaders, among qualifiers in baseball in hard hit percentage over the last 14 days. He hits lefties very well. Rodriguez is someone that throws mainly fastballs, changeups to right-handed hitters, and Haas owns over a 450 expected WOBA against both those pitches. So I really like him in all formats. And then the other one would be Max Dassey. This guy's played really well this season at the plate. He hits left-handed pitching well, 27% line drive rate, 45% fly ball rate, hits the ball in the air, which is another thing that's super important to me in my research. You'll hear a lot of analysts quote fly ball percentage, which obviously is valuable, but I think line drive percentage is valuable as well. Still hitting the ball in the air. Max Stassi does that, and I really like him at his price tag. We'll get cheap catchers that pop in when we get lineups tomorrow. Like I'm fine always taking a cheap catcher. I'm not going to rule out myself taking a cheap catcher, but Haas and Stassi were two guys that immediately stuck out to me upon my first level of research. First base, loaded first base tier once again. Bales and I were talking about that last night. There's tons of obvious spend-ups here, Max Muncy, Paul Goldschmidt against the lefty. Like, you can use those guys, obviously. And I'm not going to rule myself out using him. I just don't think it's very helpful for you guys for me to get on here and just tell you like to play Max Muncy because that's sort of an obvious thing. So outside of the top tier, Cody Bellinger's been absolutely dreadful over the last month, really batting. But a little sneak peek, I think stack wise, the Dodgers are in a good spot for Wednesday night, so I will consider him at a discount in that mid tier. And then my boy Miguel Cabrera. Um, I talked about him on this exact video last night. He homered tonight. He is locked in at the plate. 42% hard hit rate for the entire season. Over the last 14 days, I noted yesterday that he's been hitting the ball even harder than that. Obviously, hits lefties well, hits fastballs really well, and he's going to see some fastballs from Rodriguez. So I like a Haas and Miggy mini stack in tournaments if you're not playing Rodriguez. And I like Miggy anyways at sub 3K on DraftKings. I think that's too cheap, and he's just been playing really well, and I'm completely fine using him in all formats at that price tag. Second base, kind of the same story as Tuesday. The Braves are once again my favorite stack. Kind of after we did the video last night and coming into today was the Braves. They're going to be my favorite stack again. They absolutely shredded John Lester tonight. They get J Happ on Wednesday night, who is another bad lefty with a bad bullpen behind him. They had to make that bullpen work after getting to Lester tonight. So I think the Braves are in another smash spot. Ozzy Albies, much better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching this season. Actually got a little bit cheaper. He's below 5K for Wednesday night, and he's the top spend up for me. We do have Coors Field, once again, Rockies and Cubs. So Ryan McMahon, Brendan Rodgers, those guys are going to be high-owned plays, most likely in cash games, and I have no problems using those guys in all formats. And then the other interesting one's going to be Rougned Odor. The Yankees get Matt Harvey, who hasn't pitched bad, right? Over the last month, really, he's actually been decent results-wise. The metrics aren't terrible. They're not good by any means, but they're not truly gas can level bad. He does get, the thing with Matt Harvey is he gets the ground balls to righties. Odor obviously bats left-handed, and people like to use lefties against Matt Harvey. So I expect Odor to get some traction as we head into Wednesday. I think he's fine at his price tag, but I personally prefer to get up to Albies or to save with some of those Coors guys. Third base is similar to first base. It's a pretty loaded position here. You have Devers at the top. I think he's going to be probably the top projection here. And anytime he's up against a right-handed pitcher, you can use him in all formats, especially as a one-off. Red Sox weren't quite in my top stacks tier, at least after my first run of research. So I think he's going to be at the top of my one-off tier, and I'm completely fine with him. Austin Riley fits with my Braves exposure. I like him at his price tag once again. And David Bodie, I think, is going to probably be the chalk cheap option. Once again, really cheap in Coors Field. He was pretty chalky tonight. I think that will be the case on Wednesday. I also will mention my boy Jack Mayfield. He actually was in my core plays a couple times last week. Homered for me once. He's really cheap again. Gets the lefty in Colby Allard on the mound. Another guy that's been hitting the ball in the air. Hard contact rate over the last 14 days isn't crazy. 35%, not bad, but not great. But most importantly, 52% fly ball rate. He's getting the ball in the air. He homered again on Tuesday night, under 3K. So if you need a punt, I would definitely consider Mayfield at the top of the punt list at this position. Shortstop, I think, starts and ends with Trevor Story, at least in cash games. I kind of said going into Tuesday night slate that Story was a lock for me in cash, but I ended up playing. I think I ended up punting at shortstop, so I didn't end up playing him, but he's going to be the best projection here. It's Coors Field. He's historically really, really good at home. Given my interest in guys like Miggy and Bodie at first and third, I think you'll be able to fit Trevor Story if you want in your main lineup, and that's probably the route that you should be going. In tournaments, you obviously don't ever have to play the chalk, especially if you're not going to full stack cores in tournaments. I would just be full fading it. I think that's the most optimal way to approach course field, and if you're playing tournaments, it's really hard to beat the field with a course field stack. So I just probably wouldn't be playing them. I'd be focusing on some of the other good spots on this slate, one of which is the Dodgers. And you have Corey Seager, once again, under 5K. I will continue to buy him at this price tag. Similar to Bellinger, like these guys, even though Bellinger's been really bad, uh, they're just better than their price tag. And this is a really good spot for them. Odorizzi, over the last 30 days, actually has the second or third highest skill interactive ERA on the slate. It's over 5 runs. Hasn't pitched well for Houston, so I think it's a good spot for the Dodgers. Good spot to get in on them. They're never high owned because it's late games and they're expensive. So I think it's a good slate to get on the Dodgers, and you can certainly do that with Seager at shortstop. If you need a punt, Alcantara from the Cubs, who they just traded for, is cheap. Cores exposure, I think that's completely fine. If you are going to one-off cores, I think it's better to do it with either a cheaper guy or someone in the bottom of the order rather than someone like Story, who you know is going to feature big-time ownership. So I'm fine with him. And then I'll finish up here at outfield. The Yankees guys, I ended up playing Judge and Stanton in my core plays tonight. I think Gallo's going to be the pick for most people against Harvey, batting from the left side. I'm probably going to be a little bit lower on the Yankees than the field on Wednesday. Not that I don't think it's a good spot, but I just feel pretty strong about a couple other spots, particularly the Braves and Dodgers. I'm going to be more inclined to play them rather than the Yankees. You're going to have chalky, cheap course guys once again at outfield. Two that stick out, Ramel Tapia and Sam Hilliard. Hilliard homered, and I think he just doubled as well just a couple minutes ago while I was recording here. He's still under 3K on DraftKings. You could certainly consider him for single entries or cash games. The pairings I really like for my lineups, Duvall and Soler. Soler, I briefly mentioned him at the end of yesterday's video. He was really chalky tonight. He homered. Was probably just a pretty big mistake not to play him in cash games at what he was going to be owned. And then he came through with the chalk home run. He's going to be a really good pick once again against a bad lefty. So I like him and Duvall both. I like the Cardinals outfielders. They're very cheap. Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill, both have power. Both hit lefties pretty well. I think you can use them in all formats. I think I covered the slate pretty well. I kind of ripped through that pretty fast, but obviously on here talking by myself, things go a little bit faster. So I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Like I said, if you guys like this format of video, if you're watching it, please, please, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the like button. It doesn't cost any money. It really does help us out. You guys probably think that I sound stupid saying that, but it really does help us out. And like I said, we got 180 views on yesterday's, which is pretty good for the first ever one. Only 26 likes. So let's see if we can beat 26 likes for this video. Let's get it up in that 50 range. That would be awesome. I'm going to finish up here and talk about some stacks and my home run call. So I kind of gave away my stacks when I was breaking down the positional plays. My favorite two, far and away, at first glance, were Atlanta and the Dodgers. They get absolutely great matchups. It's a big enough slate that, like, the Braves in general, we're not projecting for super high ownership heading into Tuesday night slate. I think that will probably be the case again. You'll have Soler get pretty heavy ownership on DK once again, but I think the full stack is going to be relatively low owned. Dodgers are always low owned as a full stack, so I really like those two spots. Outside of them, Yankees, I think, will definitely get some ownership against Harvey. Like I said, I prefer the two that I just mentioned. If you feel super strong about the Yankees, you want to play them, that's completely fine. Don't let me talk you off them. I just prefer the other two that I mentioned. If you're looking for lower owned stacks or mini stacks that you can use to fill out your rosters, Detroit, number one for me, especially if Rodriguez is going to project for high ownership. I like Eric Haas. I like Miggy Cabrera. I like Jonathan Scope. And then you can even consider someone at shortstop like Zach Short. He's been hitting the ball hard recently. He's generally down in the lineup, but he does have power. So I think a Detroit mini stack, if you're not using Rodriguez, makes a lot of sense. And then another one would probably be the Baltimore Orioles, a little mini stack against Jameson Taillon. People will not stack Baltimore just because Taillon is one of the most expensive pitchers on the slate. They'll just view him as a good pitcher and someone that they're not going to stack against. But you can get someone like Cedric Mullins, who has been one of the best hitters in all of baseball, Trey Mancini, Ryan Mountcastle. So these guys have pop, big time pop, and they're not going to be high owned. So I think mini stacks, lower owned that I'm interested in, Detroit and Baltimore. Home run call, I can't even remember who mine was yesterday. I think it was Austin Riley, so that didn't work out. Missed on that, but my Dylan Cease call probably makes up for it because he scored 33 DraftKings points. So I'll forget that I missed my Austin Riley home run call. For the Wednesday night slate, I'm going to go with my boy Miguel Cabrera, turning back the clock. Joey Votto was just on a huge hot streak. It's Miggy's turn. He homered on Tuesday night, and hopefully he homers again on Wednesday. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. Like, subscribe, visit the website dfskarma.com, and preseason, baby. Preseason NFL is back. Pick up a subscription, get in the Discord for free. I don't know what you guys are waiting for. It costs $0 to get in the Discord. You can click the banner on the dfskarma.com website. Get in there and chop it up with us all day. Thank you guys for watching, and good luck on Wednesday night's slate.